And there's a look at the two combatants in Saturday's light heavyweight title unification bout. It's the Alien and the Crusher, Bernard Hopkins and Sergey Kovalev, and we are making the rounds from Atlantic City. My name is Brian Campbell, alongside Kieran Mulvaney and Dan Rafael. And gentlemen, with the fight week activities all wrapped up, Kieran, we look at Sergey Kovalev, a very jovial version of himself this week, but this is the first fight of this level for him. What have you seen from him emotionally this week? How do you chalk that up?
You know, I think initially I may have misinterpreted his mood. He was so understated. I thought maybe Bernard's got in his head a little bit. But I actually think he's just a super chill, super confident guy. He's not the kind of guy who needs to thump his chest to show how confident he is. He's kind of quiet. He's making fun of Bernard a little bit. He's pretty comfortable with where he's at, I think.
Dan, on the other side, Bernard Hopkins, 2 months shy of 50. He's been here before and then some. But let's make no bones about it. His last few fights, solid wins for him, but the opponents were not on this level of a puncher of Kovalev. What is the motivation for Bernard to step in against such a dangerous fight here?
Well, all you have to do is look at Bernard Hopkins' resume for the past, 26 years. All he's wanted to do is fight the best guys. He did it at middleweight, 20 title defenses, set the record. Three reigns as a light heavyweight title holder, has set all kinds of age-related record, has beaten Hall of Famers. Guys who he's beaten are already in the Hall of Fame, guys like Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad. These are fighters that he's fought years ago. But the reason for this for Bernard is he knows he's great, and he knows he's going to the Hall of Fame, but he wants to be one of the super great Hall of Famers. I mean, there are levels of Hall of Famers. There are regular Hall of Famers, and then there's the ultra all-time super Hall of Famers. He's on the verge of being one of the all-time ultra great super Hall of Famers. If he's not already there, certainly a victory at this age against this caliber opponent puts him in that pantheon, not just of the modern era, but of all time.
This would be a tremendous cherry on the Sunday. And Kieran, when you look at Bernard, I mean, he's facing the real deal, a guy who's knocked out 23 knockouts and 25 wins. How does Hopkins avoid, though, that big right hand?
Well, he's got to do what he does very well, which is stop his opponent from using his best weapon. That's how Bernard Hopkins has been so effective, particularly in the latter part of his career. He's going to need to hit Kovalev early enough to make Kovalev back off a little bit and hesitate just enough. Make Sergey realize that he can't just go in there and unload on Bernard. If that happens, if Sergey Kovalev starts to think about what he's doing, if he starts to pause a little bit, Bernard Hopkins has him just where he wants him. That's what he's going to need to try to do.
Dan, there's still some things we don't know about Kovalev. Still never been past 8 rounds. In this fight, how does he face a guy in Hopkins? How important is it in the early going for him to get off to a hot start?
I don't think he has to get off to a hot start. What he has to do is at least just get Bernard Hopkins' respect. He doesn't have to dominate those early rounds. He doesn't have to do damage in the early rounds. He just has to let Bernard Hopkins know, oh my goodness, I'm in with a real guy who's a good puncher, who he can feel, even if it's just on his arms or on his elbows or maybe in the body, that this is a real guy, and I need to be careful because Kovalev, I don't think he's going to come out and just go wild early on. He may have only been 8 rounds one time and been knocking everybody out, but if you talk to his people, it's not like they're not ready to go those rounds. So take him for their word, and it looks like he's in great condition. And the key to me, though, is if he does get into those later rounds, how is he going to handle the intelligence and the savvy ring generalship and the defense and just the absolute guile of a Bernard Hopkins? That's the story of the fight. Either Kovalev's going to get him or Bernard just might give him a boxing lesson.
Well, we may not have seen a fight really at this 50-50 level in some time, so let's get into the predictions. Kieran, on Saturday, which light heavyweight titleist comes out on top?
Well, it is 50-50, like you say. I've gone back and forth on it. My official pick is Bernard on points, but I'm wobbling. I don't have any great confidence in it, but I've picked Bernard. I'm going to stick with him.
I think when you see Bernard's demeanor, it makes you want to change your pick if you have picked Kovalev. We'll go over to you, Dan. Who wins on Saturday?
Well, I drove up to Atlantic City on Thursday afternoon, and I had like a 4-hour argument with myself in the car driving up. I won the argument, but it was only me arguing with myself. But I'm like Kieran. I've gone back and forth many times. At the end of the day, I did pick Bernard Hopkins. I have learned my lesson from picking against him in other fights where he was a big underdog, such as against Tito Trinidad and against Kelly Pavlik, where I got the death stare from Hopkins from ringside after the fight, where he let us all know in the media, how dare we pick against him. I'm not picking against him. Bernard Hopkins wins a decision.
Well, I, of course, have the Hopkins cloud on my resume of wrongly picking against him, but I'm going to go back to the well. I've got the younger, stronger Kovalev by knockout, but we don't know what's going to happen until it plays out in the ring on Saturday. But be sure to check out the ESPN.com boxing page, both pre- and post-fight, for all the highlights and reactions. And for Dan Rafael and Kieran Mulvaney, I'm Brian Campbell, and we are making the rounds from Atlantic City.